Have you ever told a horn player, don't worry about that mistake? The horn's just really hard. Let me know in the chat if you've ever said that to one of your students. Our guest today for our BDSG Teaching Artist interviews, Scott Leger Horn, says that saying that to a student is a huge no-no. And we all have great intentions with that because the horn is hard, I've heard, but he'll tell you what you should say instead. I'm so excited to have Scott Leger here today with us. I'm Katie Velasquez. I'm one of the co-founders of BDSG, Band Directors Survival Guide. And we bring these interviews to you because we want everyone to have the chance to learn from top tier professional players and teachers like Scott Leger. Scott Leger is in the New World Symphony, and he also plays in the Cayuga Chamber Orchestra in Ithaca, New York. And he was also a three-time All-Stater, and we were both, Scott and I were both in All-State. I think we figured out it was like 2009 or 2010. Maybe it was 2010. Yeah, and we were just not in the same ensemble, so we probably passed each other in the hallway, but we didn't even know it. So funny. But he went on to be first chair All-State twice, and he's had an amazing performing career since then. He's still on his way up, which is amazing. And we're so happy to have him here today with us for this interview, but also as a teaching artist for our advancement programs this fall. Um, so if you like this interview or if you get anything cool out of it, please give us a like or a share. And you can follow us at Band Directors Survival Guide on Facebook, where you're probably seeing this interview right now. We also have a private group on Facebook by the same name. And we have Instagram and YouTube accounts, all Band Directors Survival Guide. And you can also find us on the web at www.banddirectorssurvivalguide. So I hope you enjoyed this interview. I learned so much from Scott, and I'm so excited to share it with everyone. All right, see you at the end. All right, hi everyone. So this is Scott Leger, and we are so
Hello.
excited to have him today. Thanks for being with us, Scott.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yay! Awesome. So, the funny thing about Scott and I is that we were both in All-State at the same
That's
time.
right.
Or I'm like figuring out all these teaching artists I actually like knew, like 10 years ago. Well, like I
Yeah,
probably passed you in the hallway or
I
something.
know. It's somewhere in the in
Like,
that mall down at the convention
yeah.
center.
Oh,
Probably
exactly.
got
Getting
food at the
fried
same
chicken or
time.
something. Yeah, exactly. Totally. But so Scott's connection to Texas goes way back, and we'll talk about
hmm
that later, and how he's using that to help students and himself right now. But do you just want to like kind of introduce yourself a little bit, say what you're doing right now in this online world and what you've been doing before that, I guess, too?
Yeah, so like I guess well my most recent position right now is that I'm a fellow at the New World Symphony. So I actually live and work in Miami Beach, down as far south as it gets, basically. Um, Somehow even more south than Texas. And yeah, so I do that, and then I also play in an orchestra in Ithaca, New York, which is the Cayuga Chamber Orchestra. So I'm principal horn there, and my time is sort of spent working between those two orchestras, making as much music as possible. And then over the summer, since of course a lot of our performances were canceled, I started looking at social media as another outlet for teaching and performance. So I started a YouTube channel where I just sort of play excerpts and etudes and other random fun videos, whatever I think is interesting. And then I have an Instagram too that I post some of the same content, some different content. Just like sometimes it'll be a warm up I'm doing that day, or something I'm practicing, or maybe just a funny little joke that I think is good.
Yes, some funny ones for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely it's interesting like presenting on social media because it feels so asynchronous to like actual teaching and actual engagement, but it is really fun, and I get a lot of great questions from people. I love answering them. I love being active in the comments and just trying to like help people figure out how to make horn a little bit easier.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So what is your Instagram handle and your Facebook page and all that stuff so that we can
Right.
post it in the comments?
It's really easy. It's all Scott Leger Horn. So everything is Scott Leger Horn. YouTube channel Scott Leger Horn. Instagram Scott Leger Horn. I think there's a comma in the Facebook, so maybe that
Ooh.
might be tricky, but everything is pretty basic. And it's all
Perfect.
good. Yeah.
And you have recordings of, I know the Texas All-State
Yes.
Etudes, right? And then
Yes.
also, do you have Florida too?
I did. So I have all of the Texas AllState Etudes with comments and practice tips throughout the video that show up on the screen. And also, I've already answered a lot of questions in the comments on those videos, so I think there's some good information there as well. And then I also have done all of the Florida All-State audition pieces for high school. They do it by grade level, so it's 11th and 12th, and then 9 through 10, and middle school. So I have all three of those sets of audition exercises that have been recorded as well.
Awesome. Yeah, this is great. Such great resources for students and teachers. Yay. So
Yeah.
I think we already posted your All-State
Mm-hmm.
Etudes for Texas here in the group, but I'll probably like repost those so people can see what the comments are, like what the most recent stuff is, all the new revelations and everything. So
Yeah, and I mean, anybody who's been working on the All-State Etudes already knows that they're challenging is almost an understatement a little bit for
really?
horn.
Oh my
They're really
gosh.
hard. So I did the recordings I made are definitely like at a final performance kind of level, and I think if I would go back, I would like to re-record them at maybe like something that's more what people should be doing in September. But
Right.
they are good resources for the end game. I will say that. But they are they when you listen to them, sometimes it's like, oh my god, how am I supposed to do this? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you're supposed to do it in November, December, not necessarily right now,
Yeah.
which is totally
Oh,
fine.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you have a lot of experience with Texas All-State and a
Yes.
lot of
Yeah.
other auditions too professionally.
Mm-hmm.
Scott and I both auditioned for orchestras. Like he says he's in orchestras, you have to audition for those spots.
Mm-hmm.
So he's really familiar with all this stuff. And that's why we at Band Directors Survival Guide wanted to kind of like
Yeah.
have people like Scott who teach our students because you have so much experience and these students are auditioning for All-State, right? And we know it's like there's like so many specific things that you want to be doing for auditions that
Mm-hmm.
are sometimes a little bit different than like just normal practicing. So I guess how can you kind of explain your audition experience and then how does that kind of like tie into like what you would be helping students with or like what you think they should know about auditioning for All-State and stuff?
Yeah, so I guess my All-State experience specifically, I did All-State 3 times, my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And junior and senior year, I happened to be lucky enough to get first chair, which was really exciting. And then I auditioned for a lot of colleges and graduate programs, as well as I've taken nearly 30 orchestral auditions at this point, which is quite a lot. But I did start young. I started when I was like 19, going to every audition I could drive to. I tried to make it out, and for our students auditioning for Texas All-State, I definitely this is a little bit different with experience because I can't say take every audition that comes your way because there's just the All-State auditions, but there is a sense of eagerness about auditioning and in performing that I think really changes how you approach the audition. Because if you're looking at the audition as like a test, like a standardized test that you have to pass or fail, there's something there's a crutch about that. There's something that stops you from expressing yourself. But if the audition is just a performance that happens to be, in the All-State case, it's in front of other musicians that are on your instrument. And in the orchestra case, it's for a panel that you don't get to see, which is a weird experience, but it's still a performance nonetheless. And so I like to think of that, and that helps me because I've found that I perform better when I'm performing than when I'm practice. There's something that opens up about my playing. There's something that becomes more expressive. And when I started applying that to auditions as well, I noticed that for me, the same thing started to happen. That when I was on stage, doing my best to just have a good time and be myself and perform, I was doing much better than when I was trying not to miss notes and give this like almost test taking strategy to the auditions. Yeah, and I mean, recently I've been doing more auditions as I've joined the New World Symphony to like get into a professional orchestra. They've all been going really well. I'm happy with the results, and so I think once auditions start back up again, again, I'm excited to keep going because I think I've found a process that really works for me, and I want to keep trying it out.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that's so great that your mindset is kind of like it's just another performance, which we all love performing, you know.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of kids are like, "Oh my gosh, like people are gonna judge me," and it's like I can't mess up. People are gonna hear me mess up, and it's just that's such a great mindset. I would love
Yeah,
for the kids to have that too.
I always think that everybody who's taking an audition on any instrument should have to play the French horn for like a year because you miss so many notes playing the
I
French horn.
know.
No matter how good you are, if you are the best horn player in the world, you are going to miss notes. And it really helps. It really does. It sounds counterintuitive that, like, oh, you'd be worried about missing notes all the time. But after you've missed like 4 or 5 notes in a symphony, you really realize that people are going to clap at the end and they're going to enjoy it anyway, you know? It's not,
Totally.
it doesn't break a performance, it doesn't break an audition, those things that we worry about. And I think that's why, I mean, that's once I figured that out, I was like, oh, it's fine, you know? And now I
Yeah.
can just go back to performing.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing we're going to do at the end of all these interviews is kind of like recap and see was there anything that everyone talked about? And this is one of
Yeah.
the things that almost everyone talks about who's like either sat or auditioned like on a professional
Hmm.
audition panel or auditioned for, yeah. And like what I noticed is that it's not about if they miss that one little note.
Hmm.
Their whole audition becomes like a picture of their playing, a full picture,
Yeah.
and even within like the first 10 notes, like I get almost that full picture. And so it's like when you hear someone miss a note, you can usually tell if it's like just an oopsie, like oops, like whoops, my bad, or you can tell if it was like actually a fundamental issue. I
Yeah.
don't know how, but usually you
You
can
can.
tell.
And my horn professor at the Yale School of Music, where I did my master's degree, has this one of my favorite lines about it, where he's like, "You need to learn how to make mistakes in a way that communicates to the committee this idea of like, well, you and I both know I'd never actually miss that note, you know?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that kind of like blase confidence is it takes practice to get that, but that is the goal in the end to like be able to miss a note and say, oh, come on, guys, you know
Yeah,
that wasn't.
we both know that
We
that
both
was
know that
like
wasn't
an
right.
oopsie. You don't
Yeah,
actually know what that wasn't me. Yeah, no,
yeah,
no, totally. Awesome. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to help my students learn about too. It's not about like your fundamentals have to be totally set so that a little oopsie doesn't take away from your whole picture. So awesome. So
hmm
cool. Okay, let's see what the next question is. Okay, so I guess, do you have any ideas about what you think students who are learning a lot of stuff online
hmm
right now, like what they need in like learning or from a teacher or from a player, like what do they need right now?
yeah. It's funny because I don't think this answer necessarily changed because of our current situation. I think it was just revealed as a problem that we may not have been addressing, and that's that everyone needs to learn how to learn on their own. Everyone needs to learn how to practice. Everyone needs to learn how to keep themselves accountable. When you're in a band program that meets every day or every other day, whatever your schedule is, that consistency takes care of so many issues. You don't have to worry about your endurance because you know you're going to play at least for an hour every day. You don't need to worry about necessarily your pitch like center getting way off because you're going to be around your colleagues playing that concert F at the beginning of the day. There's going to be these benchmarks that kind of show you consistently, am I where I need to be? Am I drifting away? Am I getting better? Like you, and without all that, it becomes so important that everyone learns how to practice, how to get better, how to teach themselves. And there's so many different ways that we have to do that. Because now that everything's online and everything is digital, we're all also learning about recording all at the same time. And I believe that people are going to have to record for their AllState auditions now too. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
change.
Yeah.
Um, so which is great because it means that everyone's going to be doing something they should have been doing the whole time, which
I
is
know.
recording themselves and listening back. And that's kind of what I mean about this our current situation, as scary and and traumatic and kind of upsetting as it is, it's actually doing a lot of work to reveal where our priorities should be as musicians and as teachers and as students, and how we may not have been satisfying those when we had the luxury of being together.
Totally. Yeah, that's one of the big things that I am actually really happy. That's almost a requirement now, is that
Yeah,
students like have to record
yeah.
themselves and like listen back. Like one of the things I'm running for our BDSG programs is like there's like the little online group, and like the kids have to submit a little video of themselves playing. And like I asked some of my students this week how it went, and all of them were like, yeah, I had to do like 10 recordings until I found one that I thought I sounded good on and I could hear the dynamics on. And I was just like,
Hmm.
thank
Yeah,
you. Like, this is exactly it. And like, I know when I was in high school, I always heard like, you have to record yourself, but I don't know, you just sometimes don't. And it's just like so easy now. And I think that's a positive thing that's come out of all of this. So
yeah, yeah.
totally, so helpful.
Everyone's learning how to
Absolutely.
learn. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
everyone's learning how to learn
totally.
again. Yeah.
Totally. All right, so let's go to the next question. Okay, is there anything that you, I guess, like think that teachers need to know right now in terms of teaching, either online or in person, or teaching the horn at all? Like
Yeah.
any of
Yeah,
that?
this is a rough one. I guess, like, because I'm also still learning about online teaching and how to make it successful. And I think I thought of this comparison with my fiance, because she really enjoys cooking, and one of the things that we do together is she is certainly more vegetarian and vegan than I am, but one of the things that we learned in cooking is that a vegetarian or a vegan recipe is the best when it's not trying to substitute
Mm.
for a traditional meal, right? Like with meat or whatever, carnivorous meal. I don't know what the word would be.
Totally.
Non-vegetarian, vegan. And so when you make a vegetarian or a vegan meal, um, creatively out of vegetarian and vegan ingredients, you have a much better product than if you're like, okay, well, I need to find a substitute for this or something for this, and it's not as good. And I think online
Totally.
teaching is exactly the same. If you are trying to do exactly the same things that you would be doing in person but online, you might achieve them, but they will be at a lesser quality. Instead, if you're looking for things that digital can offer exclusively or at its best, then you will create an experience for your students that is much more catered to the situation. So one of the things, in that vein, is like, when everybody was trying, for example, in orchestras, they were trying to solve this problem of like, oh, well, how can we get internet so that people can play together in real time? And there were all these solutions of like solving that problem. It's like, no, don't do that. It's smart. Instead, we had to like come up with these better ways to like pre-record click tracks, and how do we make sure that everybody has good video and audio, and what sort of editing skills do we need to make sure it's good. With online teaching, it's like, okay, people's internet isn't great all the time consistently. Playing live over Zoom is really hard. How can we
Hmm.
record earlier and then share those recordings and give comments to each other and get everybody in a room to like engage with music in that way? And the hardest part about this is that, if we have any teachers who have been teaching for multiple years, my mom has been teaching. She's on like 30 something years of teaching now, and
Wow.
and almost all of her lesson plans are like out the window now, and that's really scary because it's hard to imagine, like, well, what can I do with my kids? I've been doing the same thing for so long, and I know it's been working and it's successful and I'm really good at it. It can be hard to say, well, I have to change everything. um, and I think we just have to be willing to say
Yeah.
it's gonna be hard and we have to change things. And um, but again, this to go back to my earlier point, the more we try to make a creative solution to the problem instead of substituting an earlier setup, an earlier style of teaching, I think we're gonna have better results in the end. And then, by whenever we get to be in person again, close, um, I don't think those skills are really going to go away. And in fact, I think we'll have learned a
Mm.
lot more for it. Um,
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's just
yeah.
like I've heard a lot of online teaching and in-person teaching. are just different. Like if we try and say
Yeah.
one is better or worse than the other, then we're making that direct comparison, trying to like make them both the same thing. But they should just exist on their own, like two
Mhm.
separate
Yeah,
beings, you know?
they're
And
two different things. They require two different styles, two different sets of activities and curricula, and that's okay. We just
yeah.
have to kind of be ready to adapt to that. I did want to answer your point about French horn specifically because I am a
Yes.
French horn player. So let's let's like we can pare it down a little to get specific.
Sure.
Um, I kind of made the joke earlier that like French horn players miss a lot of notes, and it's but I want to like put an asterisk around that because I think right now, at least in my experience of teaching, one of the biggest mistakes any teacher can make when teaching their French horn players is telling their horn players at the very beginning it's hard and it's going to
Oh.
be hard. And people do this all the time. Like so many of the challenging instruments, like bassoon. Oh, it's going to be really tricky to get all the fingers, or oboe. It's going to be very hard to get the reed and the tone right. When you, it sounds. It. I think in some ways we think it sounds like you're setting them up to understand the challenge, and that you're letting them know ahead of time, like
Hmm.
you're going to be prepared. This is going to be hard. Are you ready? But I think what we're actually doing is we're setting up kids to well, we're putting them kind of like in a position where they either have the choice of accepting that challenge and embracing it and understanding like it's going to be hard. There's a lot of work I need to do, and I'm ready for it, or to say, well, it's hard. I don't need to worry about it. It's hard, and
I
then
just always miss notes.
I
Yeah.
just always miss
No,
notes. Like
totally.
whatever, French horn's hard, and
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't want my students to think that because that's not an opportunity for them to grow. But I also don't want them to be like scared of playing the instrument. That like, oh, it's really hard, and I know it's a high chance I'm going to miss a note. I don't really want to play, and I think that's the situation we set up. So if anything, don't ever tell your kids that the horn is hard. In fact, the horn is actually pretty easy. And when I and in this specific way, it's very easy. There are so many notes available on the French horn that you are bound to play at least one of them if you try. And
Exactly.
and that's the way I really like to think of it. It's like, there's of course there's tricky things with having the ear to like, especially with younger kids to find all the pitches and know where they are very discreetly. But also you give a kid a French horn, you put it up, they might like, oh, what's wrong with that note?
There's a note. Yeah.
It was an A, it's not an F. I want them to play an F, but it's a note, and they played it. And it's not that hard to make the sound.
Mm.
It just takes some effort to control the sound. And I think that's kind of the psychological approach I would take. And then one just quick technical thing: please check your kid's hand position every single day. just please.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
do you have like an extra camera that you use to like look at hand position? Because I have like some extra cameras in my studio that I like
Yeah.
have like embouchure cam, hand
Yeah,
position.
I don't have it set up right now, but I do. You use the Epic Cam thing too, I think, or
Oh
once
yeah, I
somebody
use Ecamm, and then Epic
Ecamm, yeah,
Cam is another good
yeah.
one for using your iPhone as a webcam.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now I have my iPhone's in front of me, but I could, for when I'm teaching, sometimes I'll have that one set up like back there, and then that camera will be
Oh,
showing my hand position. So if I need to do
okay.
anything crazy, and then, but even something as simple as like having your students sit sideways in the chair,
Uh-huh.
you now already have a lot of information about their hand is. So it's not necessarily that you need two cameras. It just might be like, hey, can you turn so that you're
Uh-huh.
facing the wall, and then now you can see their hand position. And just checking that every couple of days, because you see a lot of this. You see a lot of this where it's all the way in. You see, I don't know what this one is, but you see that one
Yeah.
sometimes. And
Like
just
you would
like,
never know. That's crazy.
yeah, and you would never know because now we live in a very 2D world where everything's in front of
Mhm.
you and so
Yeah.
whatever your system for hand position is, there are many. Just check that your kids are doing it.
Oh,
Just make
perfect.
sure that
Yeah,
it's there. It's easy to
for
forget
sure.
because it's a French horn. No one else has that. No other
Yeah.
instrument does that with the hand.
I didn't even know what you were talking about. I was like the hands here or the hand.
No, this one.
There,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay. Oh man,
I
that's
always
good to
get people in
know.
concerts always ask me like, what they're like, does that even do anything?
Yeah, I've heard that question a lot too.
and it's like
Totally.
it's funny, yeah, because it's it's the joke is like, oh, is it even perceptible? Like, because we're changing it so minutely. And I'm like, well, it's like, yeah, it is perceptible if it's really bad. It's
Yeah. Oh man,
like
for
maybe the
sure.
minor. It's like when tuba players are like pulling out the slide like a quarter of an inch for tuning or
Yeah,
stuff. It's like,
the
yeah,
small
you
changes.
do have to do it, even if it looks like it's not making much of a change.
For
So
sure. Oh, good to know. Yeah, that's such great advice for our teachers. Yeah, I feel like the psychological
yeah,
effect of like telling someone that it's hard, it's just like it can ruin everything.
yeah,
So
and
I've been trying
it,
to not do that too.
yeah, it can energize some people, and it can also hold some people back. And it's uh, sometimes, unless you really know the kid, it can be rough.
Yeah,
It can be
totally.
it's a dice roll.
Yeah, and it's almost like I don't want the kids to have like an excuse that they can, not an excuse because like I know they're probably not trying to just like slack off, but I don't want them to just feel like, oh, like I'll never get that because my teacher said it's hard. Like
Hmm.
I can't do stuff like
Yeah,
that. And I just that like never works. So totally,
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah,
Yay. Cool. Okay, so let's see. I think that is all the questions I had. But do
yeah.
you have any like closing thoughts on the horn or online world or performing or anything that you want to share for the teachers or the students who are watching?
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but this is really an unprecedented time, and I think it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that a lot of us are unsure about how to proceed in music, and that a lot of us are figuring it out as we go. But that being said, this is also a time of incredible opportunity to experiment, of incredible opportunity to put aside the things that we assumed were valuable up until this point and really reconfigure ourselves to think, what is the point of learning music? And why do I still want to do it right now? Because there's so many people that still feel like, I mean, the fact that everybody was like, how are we going to teach online? How are we going to play music online? Shows us that these things are important to us. And that's what we need to remember, more so
Mm-hmm.
than what life was like before March. But
Totally.
and I think yeah, that just kind of changes your approach to it. And then for any students that might be watching this, something that has really helped me, especially lately, and as I've grown from a student into a professional and made that transition, is that there really is no one stopping you from making music. You do not need anyone's permission to make music. That is not a rule, I don't think, at least. So if you're a student and you enjoy this, I encourage you to find ways to make music through all this, because your voice needs to be heard, and you can probably offer something, no matter who you are, to the world with music. And if you believe that and you just let yourself make music, you'll find that it can be a lot more fulfilling than. I mean, we're here to talk about auditions, and the AllState process is a big part of that. But that is just one part of being a musician.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is making music. So
Totally, absolutely. I know that I asked myself at the beginning of all this because I was so like audition here, competition here, like
yeah.
deadlines here, like
Hmm.
what am I doing now? And like it's been so fun because I'm just learning whatever I want to learn and like fixing whatever I
Yeah.
want to fix. And that's like the point I think is a different like a feeling for a lot of people, especially students who are so used to all state, then area if they made it, then
Hmm.
there's solo and ensemble, then there's marching, then there's yo-yo, like all these things that we don't
Yeah.
always have right now. So it's like how can we kind of change our approach to
Mm.
work on that just like music making aspect. Totally,
Yeah.
for sure. Cool. Well,
Great.
thank you so much, Scott. This was
Yeah.
so
Thank you.
awesome. I can't wait to share it with everyone. And I'm going to post links to all of Scott's social media things on the comments to this. So you can go check out Scott's stuff. He has a lot of cool videos, and his recordings of the AllState Etudes sound awesome. So you should definitely go listen to those. And yeah, you will
Thank
not
you.
be disappointed. But yeah, we'll talk to you later, Scott. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for being
Great.
here.
Thanks for having
Yay.
me again.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that interview with Scott Leger. It was so fun for me to talk with him. He's doing so well in the horn world and the music world. So he really has so many awesome thoughts for all of us, teachers, players, students, for everyone. So if you like that interview, please give us a like or a share. If you can share this with someone that you think might benefit, that would be amazing for all of us. You can find us at Band Directors Survival Guide on Facebook. We have a page and a private group. And then we also have Instagram and YouTube by the same name, Band Directors Survival Guide. And then you can find us on the web, and that's at www.banddirectorssurvivalguide.com. And that's where you can find out more about Scott. You can see some of his recordings, you can read more about him, and you can see if you want to work with him this fall for AllState Prep in our BDSG advancement programs. So sign up there. The spots are limited, so once they're full, he won't be able to take any more. He's really busy with all of his orchestras. He's still a really busy performing musician, which is awesome. So yeah, just head to the website if you have any questions about any of the advancement programs or working with Scott, and we will see you tomorrow for our interview with Matt Evans, saxophone, which is going to be so awesome. I'm so excited. I've known about him and his quartets for like ever, and I play the flute. So that must mean that they're really well known. So I'll see you all there tomorrow. Thank you for being with us today.